Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We're bowling off with cricket. The Gleaner newspaper in Kingston is reporting veteran West Indies batsman Chris Gayle will, after all, not be given a farewell international match, as was previously suggested. The Gleaner says it was informed of the development by a highly placed source. In November, Cricket West Indies chief executive Johnny Grave suggested on the Mason and Guest show, aired on VOB in Barbados, that Gayle would get the chance to say goodbye to his fans when the Windies play Ireland in a one-day, one-off T20 at Sabina Park on the 16th of January. There's been no squad announcements from either the West Indies or Irish camps to date. So the likelihood, based on what we are hearing, George, is that there'll be no send-off and farewell for the universe boss, he calls himself. This coming immediately after the news yesterday from the Jamaican government that fans won't be allowed for the game. And I just wonder if that, puts a little context to the story.
It's very good to seek to connect those two dots. I don't know, though, that the press release from Desmond Mackenzie's office, the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, would have then spurred the source into contacting the Gleaner, or spurred the Gleaner into contacting the source to relay that information. What I do know is that there has been a lot of controversy around this. But if you examine what Johnny Grave had said, you referenced that VOB interview, Mason and Guest, that very popular show in Barbados that Johnny Grave spoke on. He said enough to give you the impression that the Gayle farewell was a fait accompli. But there was also enough not said for you to credibly hold him to those statements. In other words, you could not say Johnny Grave declared that Chris Gayle would get a send-off. So there was a lot of grey area in those statements. So I expect that if and when Johnny Grave makes himself available to speak on the matter, he will say that, look, guys, I didn't say that Chris Gayle will be given or shall be given. He just said that, it would be an opportunity for him to get that send-off. And it is an opportunity. It still is. But, of course, based on what the Gleaner is reporting, it doesn't appear so. There is the controversy lands over whether or not this ought to be even a topic of discussion or for discussion, because some people feel it shouldn't happen, some people feel it's a no-brainer, it should happen. Where do you stand in the debate?
Well, to be quite honest, I remember Fazir Mohammed speaking very stridently about, it being a mockery of the selection process and so on. In essence, I'm not as violently opposed to it as many people are. My problem, George, is the meritocracy that we have to deal with here. And from a few years ago, I was in a heated discussion in the production department here at this SportsMax Zone, getting ready for a show one day. And I remember Chris Gayle, one whole year before the World Cup, declaring what his plans were for the World Cup. And I said to myself, that was an indication at that time, to me, that Chris Gayle had very little respect for the selectors and his own meriting a place in the team. I remember days gone by when, icons of West Indies cricket on the eve of a tour would suggest, when asked by media personnel about their plans for a tour, and the first thing they would say is, if selected. Michael Holding, Malcolm Marshall saying, if selected, I would like to do this. So I had a difficulty with Chris Gayle's attitude that, he's going to be selected whether his form or his production of runs merited, him being in the team or not. I know Chris Gayle has given a lot to West Indies cricket, but he was approaching 39 years old. His form wasn't very good, and I found it ridiculous that he would be talking 1 year ahead of a World Cup, already placing himself in the team. So against that background, I am not sure that Chris Gayle should be given this free ride into the West Indies team, because I think that meritocracy is at risk here when you're selecting a West Indies team, and there are players who feel that they will be in the team regardless of their form and how well they're playing.
All right. At the time you mouthed that opinion about the Gayle issue and the World Cup selection and the declaration, and you spoke strong, your words had iron in it when you spoke about disagreeing with Chris Gayle's stance and being a little bit perplexed by the brazenness of his statement.
Yes.
I was saying to myself, well, the context that Lance framed this comment in, I can understand, but I'm disagreeing because I'm saying there's nothing wrong with Chris Gayle declaring from a year before a World Cup that he will go to a World Cup, because we all know that Chris Gayle only exists as an international class player because of the courtesies of others, i.e. the selectors. A man can say whatever he wants, or a woman can say whatever they want. They both play cricket. But at the end of the day, they have to be picked by a selection panel and named in a squad and then named in a team. So I saw Gayle's declaration as more of a boost to himself and a message to the franchises and teams that he would have played for in the time between making that declaration and the squad for the World Cup being announced, that, look, my mission is to be a part, and my target is to be a part of the West Indies team to the World Cup. So I saw it as that, and not, because guess what, Lance, it cannot have been anything but that, because Chris Gayle cannot pick himself, and we all know that. So I wasn't put out by it. I can understand why you were put out.
But George, 3 months ago, Chris Gayle told us that he would be playing a farewell match at Savannah Park in Kingston in early 2022. He said that. Would he have said that without someone saying anything to him?
And on this day in sports, we are discussing it being unlikely that Chris Gayle will, because those under whose courtesies he exists as an international player, we are told by a credible news agency, the Gleaner, those whose courtesies he exists under as an international player have opted not to extend that courtesy. So that's the point I'm making.
But I think that has come, George, because of a lot of pressure. Well, I think the outcry against Gayle walking into a T20 team, especially coming off the debacle of the T20 World Cup a couple of months ago, had incensed so many Caribbean cricket fans that people started to speak very aggressively about Gayle being given this farewell match. And I think that could be part of the reason why Cricket West Indies is backpedaling on this story, because I think there was every intention to have him play that match.
Here's a problem. So I'm just saying, I heard what you said about Gayle's World Cup declaration. I won't hold that against him, because I saw it differently from you did.
Yes.
The thing is this, neither of us is sure what was his primary motivation. But what we are both agreed on is that he doesn't pick himself. And he can't pick himself. So there you go. But anyway, Lance, I think that we have a problem in West Indies cricket with how we treat those who've served us best. We saw it with Shivnarine Chanderpaul, which is the obvious example people have drawn on. We've heard from Anand Sanasi in the past about how himself, former Cricket West Indies President Dave Cameron and some other directors lobbied the rest of the collective to give Shiv this send-off in 2015. We all know he wasn't selected for the tour to Australia. We all know the numbers were poor for him then. We all remember Lara coming out and saying it was... He was upset.
But you remember the other side to that story,
of course,
George.
Of course,
okay.
But I'm just saying.
So do you want to say
it? Does it make the argument better?
Yes, I think so.
How?
Because the inside story is that it was put to Chanderpaul that he would be given a farewell match, but it would be him announcing his retirement.
Yes.
And he suggested that he was not prepared to announce his retirement.
The reason I didn't go there is because I had my doubts about whether or not indeed that went. So you may have better information which suggested that did happen. But I heard that story and I wasn't satisfied with the chain in which the information was passed on, so I left that alone. What I know for certain is that the men who I said made representation for Chanderpaul to be given that farewell tour did make that representation. So that's why I'm sticking with that part of the story. All right. So I'm saying Chanderpaul should have been given a farewell by the West Indies. But how? In the same way that Gayle should be given a farewell by the West Indies. But how? Chanderpaul should have been given the chance at the start of a series or during a home series to appear in a ceremony during one of the breaks, Lance, to collect some memorabilia from some high-ranking official or group of officials, thanking him for his service to West Indies cricket, and then be given the chance to say a few words to the assembled crowd, and of course it will be broadcast on TV, and then he moves on. In the same way, I'm a huge Christopher Henry Gayle fan like you and like so many people, but I believe that Chris Gayle, in terms of offering something to the West Indies as a team on the field, I think that star has fallen out of the sky. And there's no shame in it. He's been one of the best ever to have done it anywhere in the world. So Chris Gayle has nothing to be ashamed about. He has one of the best careers in the history of cricket, especially in the T20 format. Okay? And I'm still a big fan. But Chris Gayle should be given a farewell an opportunity, Lance, in the next available white ball series, which is the one that Ireland is coming to play now. He should be brought onto the field and a ceremony should be had. If they want, Lance, they can ask you to MC it. I'm sure you wouldn't say no because Chris Gayle is a Jamaican like yourself. He's a West Indian and he's a top man.
Yes.
So you wouldn't be averse to doing the honors. And we give Chris some memorabilia, signed by whomever, framed in whatever decorative material.
Yes. And
he'd be allowed to say some words. In terms of playing, picking him for playing just to say farewell, I can't agree with it, Lance. That's my position.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think an informal survey would suggest to me that there are more people, based on what I'm hearing, that would be against him given an opportunity to play in the match at the expense of upcoming younger players who would be the future of West Indies cricket, especially because we would be approximately 9 months away from the next T20 World Cup.
But Lance, can I interfere? I have a problem with that.
Yes.
Okay. Listen, hear me out now, though.
Yes.
I'm not attacking you from this perspective, but I'm going to go on the attack, Lance.
Yes.
I'm not saying that what you said just now is your opinion, because you didn't present it as your opinion. You're saying that that's what seems to be the opinion of the collective.
Yes,
good.
Yeah.
Lance, that's a mealy-mouthed way of saying that the man shouldn't get a game legitimately. When you go into the realm of, because, we could use and give another young player an opportunity, there is no young player whose career would be blighted by not playing against Ireland in a one-off T20 just because Chris Gayle got a game. That's rubbish.
I actually put that to Fazir a couple of months when we spoke.
Yes.
But, George, the fact is, Gayle averaged 9 in the World Cup that just ended. Of all the batsmen, apart from Andre Russell, he was the poorest. He's 42 years old. George, do you believe in astrology?
Of course.
And zodiac
signs?
I
understand it. I don't believe
and people born in the same.
I read it for fun.
Okay, because I was about to say to you that Chris Gayle and Curtly Ambrose have exactly the same birthday date, September the 21st.
So they're Librans or Virgo.
Virgo. That's the back end of Virgo.
Yes.
And Curtly Ambrose played his last test match at 36 years old. He played 98 test matches, George. A lot of high-ranking people in West Indies cricket tried to persuade him to play on a little bit longer.
To get 100.
Even to go to 100 test matches. And Curtly said, I've done my thing and I'm gone. Chris Gayle, who has the same birthday as Curtly Ambrose, is 42 and is hesitant to leave. So whenever you get into a debate, George, with someone who believes in astrology and zodiac signs, put that story to them.
I certainly will. I'm saying that's a good one. I'll put that in my back pocket. But the point is, don't tell me that Chris Gayle shouldn't get a playing send-off because, some youngster will need the opportunity and building. But that's rubbish. There's no youngster whose future will be blighted by sitting on the bench while Gayle plays a one-off T20 against Ireland. Say it for what it is. Say that Chris Gayle's contribution to West Indies has ceased being useful. That's a fair argument. And the numbers that Lance just gave can back that up. But I'm saying, I still believe, for what he has given to West Indies cricket, he deserves a send-off. Give him an appropriate send-off. If you feel that Ireland is too low-profile a team for you to have that ceremony in the midst of, wait until a big team comes to the West Indies. The English are coming in 2022, aren't they, Lance?
Yes.
Exactly. When the Englishmen come, put your pomp and pageantry together. Get Lance Whitaker as your MC. Have a big ceremony.
If the local government minister is allowing fans at Savannah Park.
Well, even if there are no fans, TV solves that problem.
But I think those matches are going to be in Barbados anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter. Chris Gayle is a West Indian.
Yes, he is.
Yeah? So I'm saying, get your thing together. Give Chris Gayle a send-off in a ceremonial manner. In terms of the playing issue. I don't think anyone
would oppose that, George.
And that's the point.
George, I don't think anyone would oppose that.
Happiness all around.
Yeah, I think that would be a win-win situation.
Happiness.
Well, still to come on the SportsMax Zone. In our NBA segment, the unvaccinated Kyrie Irving is back in training with the Brooklyn Nets and could be available as early as January the 5th against the Indiana Pacers. And Manchester United and Burnley are battling in the final English Premier League game of 2021. Highlights and analysis coming up. But next, at the track.